My name is Brant, B-R-A-N-T, Hunt, H-U-N-T. My channel is simply called Discerning What is True. Today is the 30th of January 2026. I'm going to be reading again from the particular book called Kabbalah and Exodus, or Kabbalists would say, who were an extreme minority of people who were seeking truth as Jews and even non-Jews. So the title of my talk is simply called Vision, and this particular chapter is called this is chapter 25, but it's also coming from the book of Exodus, and the chapter is speaking of is chapter 24 in Exodus. So thank you for being here. So let's get into the meat of the deal here. Okay. So again, it says it's called Vision. According to rabbinical tradition, the angel sent by God to guide the Israelites is none other than the archangel Metatron. That's M-E-T-A, Metatron, who is the transfigured Enoch, E-N-O-C-H, which is not included in the Bible. Phil Langdon's done a book on that. Actually, I think he did a part of that series. I don't know. We talked about it. I think we did. He also has, I think, written a book also on this book, Enoch. For some reason, those who chose not to put Enoch in the Bible. They had some issues with it. I don't quite remember what they were. So continue. The reason for this is the phrase, quote, "My name is in him," end quote, which is associated with Enoch, who's Kabbalistic tradition says is the esoteric teacher of mankind. As such, he has a direct interest in anyone who wishes to rise out of dominance of the lower worlds towards the spirits, where Metatron stands at the crown of the tree of creation as the angel of the Lord. As Enoch, or the, quote, initiative, end quote, he knows all the struggles a human being has to pass through, and therefore he is well qualified to lead the Israelites into the upper and invisible worlds via the mentor of Moses. So the whole idea, again, is this is the story. It is not based upon a literal, what most 99.9% of the people out there believe. It's a literal, it just means it's historical. Sorry. I know that I watched a series a month ago. They're looking for Sodom and Gomorrah, but this time they were looking for the ark, that is Noah's ark. And people have spent millions and millions of dollars doing all this research and trying to find this or create something. They also have been searching for the idea of the three rivers. And I need to ask Phil about that sometime more in time and more when we get a chance to talk. And how even, I think there is, now don't quote me this, I think there is a theme park somewhere in the United States that has Noah's Ark, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I'm just speculating on that. Always remember the word crown is up here, your crown. You know, you speak of your crown. It's the highest part of who you are. When you take measurements, I remember long ago in North Carolina, we would get measurements. We would stand in a wall, and our parents would get a ruler or something of that nature, and then would mark a certain place where our height was at that time. Kind of interesting when you think about that, and you're all excited about this, you know, such kind of thing, you know. But anyway, as Enoch or the initiative. He knows all the struggles a human being has to pass through, and therefore he is well qualified to lead the Israelites into the upper and invisible worlds via the mentor of Moses. This is again to do with the promised land. This is a land of the milk and honey. That's what this is what this is about here. You're seeking what you're looking for, the milk and honey, and it's not some place. This is what even explorers have been looked for sometimes. Not milk and honey, but looking for where there's a place where you will go and become young. One of the Spanish explorers came to America looking for the what we call a place for rejuvenating your youth. You see, excuse me, because they've been told these stories, and they assumed that there was a literal manifestation of that. And as far as I know, they never found it. You see, contact with a spiritual being who gives instruction is accepted in the tradition, and many Kabbalists down the ages claim to have been taught by such Manadim, as they are called. Some are said to have had Elijah as a teacher, and this is in order because the prophet, whose name means God is Yahweh, end quote, is considered to be the manifestation of Metaton. For one who has reached the level of spirit, it is not uncommon to sense the presence of an unseen guide. Many have experienced the intervention of such an intelligence in their lives, although no direct proof of those things can be established except through personal experience yourself. Example in Kabbalah is Rabbi Joseph Karo, K-A-R-O, a lawyer living in the 16th century in Palestine, who recorded in his diary what his angelical mentor told him. The direct contact with the angelical levels revealed a major change of state in which intercourse between heaven and earth can now freely occur. The significance of this to Israel and the individual is enormous. Seen Kabbalistically, that is, it means that the celestial regions of existence can manifest below in a consciousness that is capable of receiving a power and vision of what normally cannot come into mundane experience. While it enables those who are below to ascend out of the earthbound conditions and glimpse the wonders of the upper worlds, it is at this point in Exodus 24 that an invitation is extended not only to Moses, but to Aaron, his two sons, and the 70 elders to come up into the higher reaches of the holy mountain. Holy mountain. Again, it's revealing something that takes place. You know, the word holy would say simply it's not a, physical place. At the altar of 12 pillars, okay, that's important. 12 pillars built by Moses below the mountain, the book of the covenant was read out. And those 12 were symbolized, either 12 tribes of Israel, or it could represent other things, such as the 12 major astrological signs. It doesn't give any revealing there, so we don't know that. But anyway, again, this is symbolic probably. At the altar of 12 pillars built by Moses below the mountain, the book of the covenant was read out. After the people had consented to do everything asked of them, Moses sprinkled the blood of the sacrifice over them, saying, quote, "Behold the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you in agreement of all these words," end quote. By this physical and symbolic operation, the covenant was made and sealed. Rituals are enacted so as to affect the body, the psyche, and the spirit of the covenanter. In this matter, all levels and worlds are involved, and the consent is total. Having completed this ceremony, the heightening state of consciousness allowed those invited by the divine to ascend up through the worlds. This miraculous journey is described in the 9th verse of Exodus chapter 24 with the greatest brevity. Quote, then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab, N-A-D-A-B, and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel. So let's look at this here. Let's look at one thing here. Let's look at this name Nadab, and see if it's in this particular book. This is Metaphysical Dictionary. It's a small one. Let's see if we can find that name, because I don't recall that name in my mind. So I'm kind of curious if it is in here. Not to say it's not, but I'm just saying that. So this is N-A-D-A-B. Hebrew means liberal, L-I-B-E-R-A-L. Now, it's based upon Leviticus chapter 10, 1 through 2, verses 1 through 2. And what it means here is saying presumptuous. That's what the name means, N-A-D-A, Nadab. The other one word here is another one here, right behind it. Abihu, A-B-I-H-U, and the 70 elders. You'll notice something always about scripture and the Hebrew speaking of, they use round numbers. There's a purpose in that. It's when they say they met 25,000, or like to hear it's going to be 70. It's not 71. It's not 77 or whatever. It's simply 70. And it's also important. Let's get to where I was at here, looking at Abihu. Find it in this particular book here. So what it means simply here is Abihu is from Hebrew, my father is he, but it's also based upon Numbers chapter 26, verse 60. My sonship. That's S-O-N-H-I-P. Sonship. My sonship. And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, as it were, the body of heaven in clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel, he laid not his hand, and they saw the Elohim, and they ate and they drank. End quote. In Kabbalistic terms, the company of souls reached the crown of formation, which is simultaneously the center temporal of the world of creation and the bottom temporal of emanation. From this place where the three upper worlds meet, they saw the divine light of Azilut, A-Z-I-L-U-T. And I think I've done this before, but we'll make sure we look at it again. The meaning of that particular word. It's not here. I don't see it. Let's see. No, it's not. Okay, so it's not in this particular one at all. So I'm just curious if it would be there. It might be in this particular one. I'll have to look at a little later. Shining through the lucid substance of heaven, above which stood with his feet touching creation, the God of Israel. While in this gracious state, none came to any harm that might have been incurred in the presence of each of such spiritual power and divine radiance. Instead, they were fed with the food of the angelical beings, that is the imagination of the Elohim. Seeing in personal experience such a moment of vision during a initiation ceremony is not unknown, although it may only be the briefest of flashes that reveals all the worlds present within and without a person. This brevity, as in the scripture, is to safeguard against any danger to unprepared psyche and body. See, that's part of it. The idea simply is if you're not ready for it, it's not, in other words, it's protecting you because you basically are not prepared to be able to handle it, you see. And the body. In some cases, the person wishes to die before the soul and spirit yearn for nothing else but union with God. While some traditions seek the state as an ideal. Kabbalah does not train its practitioners to leave the earth before their time. It takes the individual up to this level in order that he might become a channel for the higher, quote, worlds, and that W is capitalized here, to flow through and down into what is called an act of unification. Well, here it is right there. It speaks of unification. That means it once was, duality. I'm guessing this, but that makes sense because unification means one. That's unity. UNI means it had to be division and became unified, being one. This way, the lowest levels of existence may be permeated with a consciousness of soul, spirit, and divinity. It is interesting to note here that the sons of Aaron are included in this ascension because later they were to die, D-I-E, when they used, quote, strange, end quote, or alien fire in a priestly offering. That's from Leviticus chapter 10, verse 2. This warns the spiritual ambitions that even though one may be privileged, there is still danger of mistakes. This can cost the greatest price and precipitate a fall from the highest places most mortals can reach. Highest place most mortals can reach. And that will be it for this evening on this particular chapter. We're again, like it was chapter 25, it's again reading about the chapter of Exodus, which is chapter 24. And it's simply called Vision. So we'll stop there tonight. Again, the day is the 30th day of January 2026. So I appreciate you being here. It's a very short snippet here. We'll probably try to do one more chapter tonight, this particular book, and then we'll probably end it this evening. So thank you for being here. I see someone is here, so it's good to see you, whoever you are. I hope that you appreciate this. And if you have any comments, sometimes you can welcome comments here if you want to. Thank you, and have a good evening.